Hi, this is Eileen Epps Hamilton, and we're here with Word Streams. We are so excited tonight as we talk about Stop the Cycle of Abuse, ministering to the next generation. We continue our discussion of children and how we go about contending for our children and the importance of our children. When we talk about stopping the cycle of abuse, usually that's not the topic that we have at the Sunday dinner table, nor is it the topic that we discuss at soccer practice. But if we don't talk about stopping the abuse, it won't stop. That's why we're so excited today to have our guests with us, both Don Hensley and Chuck Phillips of the Missouri Baptist Children's Home. Excuse me, guys, on that. I had an opportunity to meet with them as a result of some training that Pastor Cassandra Wainwright did with her ministry, Heaven Sent Outreach Ministry, at which time she invited the organization that's with us tonight, MBCH, to do the training, which is entitled Stewards of Children, which you'll hear about tonight. A little bit about the organization as far as MBCH, their mission is to serve God by responding to the needs of children, youth, and families to make a lasting difference in their life, a lasting difference in their lives. And I think after you hear our two guests with us tonight, I'm usually one-on-one. Tonight I have two-on-one. So all of you pray for me that we can do this and do this with grace and honor. But the two of them are extraordinary. They have worked together for MBCH for combined together almost 50 years of serving children and community. So I don't have to explain their backgrounds or their credentials. They are a witness of the power and the strength of God in the lives of people and making a change. Also, they have worked together in training stewards of children for the last 3 or 4 years. So they're really experts on telling and sharing what that's all about. So I'm going to invite them in at this time. And here we have Don Hensley and we have Chuck who are joining us today. We're so glad to have you here with us today. A few housekeeping items that we wanted to make sure everyone remembered, that if anyone you would like to invite to find this tonight, they could find us on facebook.com, ITW Ministries online, or after the event, you can check on the title, Stop the Cycle of Abuse, Ministering to the Next Generation. Throughout today, we want to make sure that you don't forget to subscribe for us on Facebook and on the YouTube channel. Tonight, we will continue to discuss several questions throughout the event. And so we remind you in the comments section that you would list your questions and we will share them throughout the broadcast. Make sure you do that and get ready for the questions that we have for you tonight. Okay. And so, all that being said, I think I've done all of the housekeeping items. Like I said, I think this is a perfect fit, this discussion, since WordStream focuses on community, well being, and lifestyle. This is a topic that is so important, and we want everyone to actively get involved by sharing those questions, asking those tough questions that you don't do at the soccer game and you don't do on Sunday. All right. All right, that being said, let's just move right into our topic tonight on stopping the cycle of abuse. And I've got some slides here. Everyone grab you a cup of coffee because we're going to have some interesting information to share with you. And I'll give you a teaser. They will be back with us next month as we continue to dialogue about our children and how do we help address this issue of abuse. Okay. So that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, Chuck, number one, and I'm going to let you guide me through our presentation here.
Absolutely. So we're really excited to be able to talk about this, Eileen. This is a tough topic. You're right. It's not a sit around the dinner table. It's not a soccer practice or soccer game conversation. But I'll tell you quite honestly, it's a conversation that needs to be had. It needs to be had because it's happening right next door to people.
Mm.
I once had somebody tell me that, quote, she said, "Well, that's not happening in our town." And I just was kind of dumbfounded because I wish I could say to her, "No, it's not happening in your town," but it is. It's happening all over the world. So as we progress to the next slide, I think we're going to start talking about some numbers and some people that, folks, this is really happening. So the definition, Dawn's going to go ahead and give us the definition for this.
So, yeah, the definition of trafficking is profiting from enslaving people of sexual servitude and forced labor. So, we're talking about sex trafficking primarily tonight. So I think, Eileen, we have a question for everyone out there.
Okay, let's just move right to our first question that we have. And it is a true and false question. Profits made from sex trafficking is greater than from Target, Home Depot, and Nike combined. And that is true or false. I'm going over to the comment screen, see if anyone has what they think that is, the answer to that. Is that true or false? Target does a huge business when we think of that. And Home Depot, we think of all of the do-it-yourselfers that are out there, and Nike, of course, sportswear. So we know that that's a lot of money. So why I would say this is false. I'd say it's false.
Eileen, I would love to tell you that it was false. And this is a number that I get to speak about a couple times a week, minimum.
Mm.
It's a number that hits you right between the eyes. But the grand total of all three of those together is close to 99 billion with a B dollars. So the profits made from sex trafficking in this world are 99, in the United States, I'm sorry, are $99 billion a year. So you understand why evil is out there committing this crime. They follow the money. So we understand why we need to be protecting our children. We need to be protecting the people. We need to be stepping up to do what needs to be done. And it is happening in your town. It is happening to your next door neighbor. And we need to start talking about it.
Well, we see Terry Barnes is online tonight, and she said it's probably true, but that answer would be shocking.
It hurts. I mean, honestly, it really truly hurts to talk about that number because Nike is worldwide, right? It's a huge organization, but those three combined equal about the same as what it does in the United States as far as profits made.
Okay. All right. So we finished that question. You ready for the next slide?
Absolutely.
Okay, the next slide. And you want the question up right now, or how do you want to do this?
Well, let me talk about this just for a second. We're talking about a number that hurts. Anybody that's ever been to a NFL football game knows that there's a lot of people in those stadiums, right? NFL owners do a lot of work to get, 75, 80, 90,000 people in the stands. The problem is when we look at this, we would need 525 NFL football stadiums to fill it with the number of children that are abused in America. 525. There's only 31 total in the United States football stadiums. And so when you're watching NFL on Sunday, and I'm not here to bash the NFL, but when you're watching NFL on Sunday or Thursday night or Monday night, everybody loves Monday Night Football. Imagine each one of those people is a child that has been abused sexually. And then imagine that one football stadium times 525.
Gracious.
We're talking about $99 billion. And we're talking about 525 NFL stadiums. That's a number that needs to be talked about. That's a number that needs to settle in on your heart in order to fully grasp that something needs to be done differently. So yeah, if you don't mind popping up that next slide, or that question, I'm sorry, the question.
We're ready for the next question. Okay,
Yeah.
question is true or false? 18 is the average age of teen sex trafficking victims. True or false? Let me go over to my comment section. And it's not popping up, but I've got Barbara who says probably true. Probably true. Okay, that's one response. Okay. We have another one that says false. They're younger than that. Okay.
Hmm.
So,
And that is false. So, Eileen, if you'll kick it over to the next slide, we'll be able to, Chuck's going to kind of talk through our average ages.
Yeah.
okay.
So again, unfortunately, I wish I had better news for right now, but it's coming. Okay. The average age is 11 to 14 years old. A 15-year-old is typically been trafficked for 2 to 4 years.
Wow.
So we're talking about our young children of our country. I mean, that's truly what we're talking about is our future. We're talking about young minds and young hearts. So that's what we really need to be. Again, we're talking about numbers and we're talking about ages, but let's put a face, right? Let's talk about the people you know, children that you know, your youth group. Those kids are in danger of being trafficked. Those kids are in danger of sexual abuse.
And Chuck, that's girls and boys, right? It's not just girls.
Yeah,
It's not just boys.
I appreciate that, Dawn. So here's the horrible part: is there are programs out there across the country for girls.
Mm.
There are very few for boys. And here's the number one reason why, Eileen. Number one reason why is it never happens to boys, right? No, it does happen to boys. We're
Right.
talking about boys and girls. The problem with this is nobody, for the longest time, nobody would talk about the fact that girls were being sexually trafficked and abused, right? Until finally they started coming out and talking about it. Boys don't talk about it. Boys don't, that can't happen to boys. That's not right. That's not natural. So boys don't talk about it. So here's the trick, Eileen, and here's where I need help from all of us. We need to start talking about it. We need to start saying, you know what, this is happening. This does happen. So that boys that are being trafficked, boys that are being victimized can come forward and find a safe place to be able to talk about that. Because until we start talking about it, until we start admitting that it's happening, boys are never going to come forward to talk about it. Because we boys, we bottle it up and say, oh, no, that can't be right. That's not normal, so I won't talk about it. But the fact is it does.
Trina Phillips was right on target. She said, not true. We do have a question here. Thank you, Trina. Thank you, Terry. We do have a question from Terry. It says, do you identify this problem differently than the Kansas City Police Department? According to the KCPD, their reported numbers are bad, but not like I am hearing here.
Yeah, so we get our numbers from different databases across the country that we tap into. So I'm not sure how the KCPD directly picks up those numbers. However, we do work really closely with the task force here in Kansas City or here in Missouri, which has been phenomenal over the years. So that's with the Attorney General's office.
Okay. All right. So we had a lot of response on that one. So next slide coming up is can you take and give us kind of an overview of the program and what's happening and what are you doing there?
Yeah, so MBCH recognizes that there is a need. And so we stepped in and have created a program that we have facilities across the state. We really based our program on Isaiah 43:19. So behold, I'm doing a new thing, a new thing. Now it springs forth. Do you not perceive it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And so our program really comes in and we work with women, we work with boys and girls who are lost in human trafficking so they can realize there is freedom in Christ to make a healthy life choice. We do this really by connecting them to a supportive network, church, family. If they don't have family, trying to identify who could be like family for them. Our staff come in and support them and work alongside them. Because our hope is really to bring healing, to allow these victims to be out in their community within family settings, living healthy lives. after they get some treatment and some help to really get them back and integrated into our communities. We know that God created the family and God creates perfection, right? Like the family is perfect and we know that. So we work really hard, especially with our youth victims, to get them back into family-like settings.
I think that's the thing that really caught my attention as we've been talking is how closely you do work with the churches and work with replicating healthy environments of family and that family because it is about relationships.
Yeah.
I would imagine a lot of the young people who get involved in trafficking get caught as a result of wanting to connect.
Eileen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but one of the greatest blueprints we could ever have is what Jesus Christ did for us. I mean, he didn't have to come to earth and walk amongst us, right? He didn't have to come and build a relationship with us one-on-one. So that's the blueprint that we really want to base everything upon is Christ came to earth, walked amongst us, and built that relationship with us and taught us how to heal, how to forgive, how to just to walk with people that are hurting. He didn't have to do that, but that's what we truly want to seek to do is because a lot of our kids that are being trafficked or a lot of our kids that have been sexually abused, they don't feel loved anymore or they've been taught that they're unlovable, right? And that's not true. They are. And until we start walking alongside of them, until we start showing them that what has happened doesn't matter. What happens is I still love you and you still have value. You're worth something. And so that's where the difference has to be made. That's where trafficking can be broken.
Okay. I do have another question from Terry. And it says, do you have data by race and location? Are you seeing any disparity in BIPOC populations for this issue?
Yeah, I do. And I appreciate that question. Thank you, Terry. 26% are white, 40% are black. That's kind of the database that we've come up with that we've found. Those are numbers that we've received from a national database. So again, no matter what it is, it's unfortunate.
All right.
So, Chuck, that kind of leads us into our next slide, though. Where do our referrals come from? Where do we get our data from? And where do our referrals come from?
Yeah, so again, we talked about relationships, right? So one of the greatest things we do is we build a relationship with law enforcement, FBI, Homeland Security, Children's Division here in Missouri, private placements even. And that's important to hear because private placements, a lot of parents say, I can't afford help. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So then the child continues to be abused or trafficked, and the parents are screaming for help, but they don't know where to turn to. So we do take private placements in order to support our clients. And there's other programs around the country that do the same thing. And that is, we want to work with people. We're not here to get rich. We're not here for the money. We're here to support people. But one of the great things that we have found is a lot of the victims that we come across, they've been traumatized. They've been taught that law enforcement's bad, right? So what we want to do is we want to bring law enforcement into the house and slowly but surely show that these people are here for good reasons. Homeland Security is here to talk with you about, what has happened in order to get the bad guy. And so that's where it really is a great relationship that we have across the country, that they can reach out and say, hey, we need some help and we can help, or that we can refer somebody for some help with somebody else within law enforcement, such as Homeland Security has been great. But again, private placements, it's important for parents to hear that. And it's important to get that word out there that if they're having trouble, that if we can't help, we can help find somebody that can.
And I think a question that I asked you was as far as the relationships, how each of these really played a role in helping the people, the victims, get justice. And you had mentioned the prosecution, ensuring that the traffickers are prosecuted. And I think that's very important too, that the victims see that as a result of their involvement with these groups, that there is action that is taken against them and on their behalf too.
Absolutely. It's vital for us to start catching the bad guys. I mean, that's, as a victim, they want to see that something's going to be done in order to help them feel safe as well. As long as those people are running the streets, a lot of times our clients and people that have been trafficked or people that are being abused, they struggle because they fear that that person's going to come and find them again.
Yeah, absolutely. That feeling of safety and security, which is share a little bit, and I don't know if this is the right time or later on, the program itself and the need to establish security and a settled schedule for those victims that are involved in trafficking? What are some
Well,
of their emotional needs that are need to be taken care of?
yeah, I appreciate that question. So it all starts with, again, building that relationship, showing that we're here to be safe. You know, if someone when someone's been trafficked, they typically don't want to walk in and trust those people that say they're there to help, because other people have been there to help before too, right? Or they've been there to rescue them from some situation, but yet have turned around and traffic them as well. So we want to help them to feel safe. We want to provide care while still giving them their space. One of the best ways to somebody's heart is through food. When was the last time somebody ate? We want to sit down and offer them some food. What is their favorite food? We want to try to provide that, because again, food is a comfort thing. The next thing we want to do is show them their room. We want to show them where they can feel safe. We want to show them the whole house, introduce them to anybody and everybody that we can, so that they can start knowing people. So again, that first night in a new placement is always scary. So we want to do our best to introduce them to everything, show them what's there, introduce them to how we work, the things that we do. The last thing we want to do is start questioning about what's bad's happened to them, right? We're here to care, because we care about you and God sees value in you. So therefore, let's us show value in them rather than questioning them or talking to them about what's happened. We're just there to provide a safe place to sleep and some food. And then from there, once we start establishing that relationship, then we can start tackling the real trauma that's happened to them.
Okay, really good. Also, in the presentation, I know when we had worked through what we wanted to share today, because it was such good information, that the focus right now that we're talking about is sex trafficking. So it's kind of after the fact, and how do we begin to protect and to comfort and rebuild. The other side of that is where the training of stewards of children really comes in. So that's our next slide and our next question. But I have another question. And Terry, don't feel like you're asking too many questions. We love the questions. So here we go. Here we go. Sorry to ask so many questions, but we hosted a community event on this topic because the community believes a van was going around basically kidnapping kids for this reason. However, DOJ, KCPD, FBI, who were all invited guests, squashed the concern and never got anywhere near the numbers I am hearing tonight. I believe it, but a big disconnect in the community. So that's a point. How do we, again, create and share information that the community will understand? Also, the community of the referral sources that we have listed today.
Yeah, so I love that. So law enforcement is currently going through a lot of training. I can't speak for law enforcement directly. I just know some of the people that are doing the training across the country. And what I'm hearing is tremendous things, because, and again, I don't want to speak for law enforcement. And if your law enforcement isn't currently going through a training, I apologize, but it's what I'm hearing on the streets. And I know, again, I know a couple of the trainers that are doing it. But they are traveling around teaching exactly what human trafficking is, the signs to look for, questions to ask. And so this is a topic that across the country, as again, we talked about the numbers, 525 football stadiums that could be filled. This is something that we have to talk about, as I've said already. And law enforcement's going through additional training. We all need to be talking about it. So therefore, we can put it on the table. You know, it's the big elephant in the room. Let's put it up on the table. Let's talk about it, because as long as we're hiding it, those numbers are going to continue to go through the roof, and we're going to lose control of everything.
I would say that the community, even if those who were invited to come squashed the event, that we continue to stay in front of them and to holler and share with them that it is happening, and people in the community understand too that it is happening. I remember that whole incident about kidnapping of our kids, and there was no resolution to that. There was no answer to that. So that would be a good follow up for us on this too, to see kind of what happened with that. Okay. And with that, I'm going to go to the next slide, which is Darkness to Light, which was the training that I had the opportunity to attend. which is on the front end of this. This is the prevention piece. So they don't get involved in the trafficking piece. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Dawn, at this particular time. And do we want to start up with a question?
Absolutely. Let's start with that question.
Hey, I'm on point now. All right. The question is multiple choice. What percentage of child sexual abuse victims know their perpetrators? 10%, 30%, or 90%? What percent of child sexual abuse victims know their perpetrator? 10, 30, or 90%? I know the answer to this because I went through the training.
Yes. We talk a lot about that in training, don't we?
Yeah, a lot about that training. Okay. Terry,
And
Terry, Terry said 30%. Anybody else? Terry, I'm giving you the magic gift tonight because you've got all the questions, and we thank you for that. Terry Barnes, we worked together on the Contending for Children initiative. And so Terry is one of our advocates in the community who is very concerned about our children, especially our young women, our young ladies, and making sure that we maximize their potential. So she is a person with a white hat out there. She's a good guy. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Let's get the answer on that.
yeah, so Eileen, it is actually C. 90%. 90% of victims know their abuser. So really, that's where darkness to light, protecting protecting children from child sexual abuse, that's really where this training comes in. They come in with 5 steps that we want to teach. So this particular training, that to teach these 5 steps, it's a 2-hour training. It is free. There's no cost. We would love to present this training to churches, youth serving organizations, parents. Like, we want to get this out there. And like I said, it is free training. It only takes 2 hours of your time. But we want to come in, and step 1 is learn the facts. Learn that there are 90% of victims out there who know their abuser. Step 2 is minimizing opportunities. You know, more than 80% of sexual abuse actually occurs in one-on-one isolated situations. And so we spend a lot of time in the class talking about how to minimize the risk, how to minimize those one-on-one situations. Step 3 talk about it. Just children often keep abuse a secret. But we want people to learn to openly talk about what is going on, because through talking and listening as adults, we can hopefully prevent and cease the cycle of sexual abuse.
So, you ready for that question?
I am. So the next question is multiple choice. What percentage of children tell someone about their victimization within the first year? So Eileen, within that first year, how quickly do children talk about it? 10% of them, 31%, or 74%?
Okay, Terry. Okay, Trina. What do you believe? Okay, lead us in the right way. Go, Don.
Yep.
That is
Okay, here we got an answer. Yeah. In the past week, we've seen 3 perpetrators. Wow. Wow. 10%.
Terry, I would love to go with your number every time. I like your numbers.
But unfortunately,
Unfortunately, this one is 31%. 31% of victims tell someone in the first year. So we kind of have our numbers on the wrong scale.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So really, you know, Eileen, this is where step 4 comes in, recognizing the signs. Often the signs of emotional or are emotional or behavioral. They're not physical. So we really talk in the training about, you know, how do you recognize what those signs are? What is changing in the child's behavior? Emotionally, how are they acting? Because some of those things will tip us off. The other thing I want to say, and we talk a lot about in the training, and I think this is one of the things, Eileen, you remembered the most from the training, but we talk about, parents, we got to teach our kids the correct terms for body parts. It's really critical that we label body parts with the correct terms that everyone knows. Because as you remember from the videos that we use in the training, a little girl came in and said to a teacher, "My daddy ate my cookie last night." The teacher thought they were talking about chocolate chip cookies, and so we need to know those signs, use correct body part language with kids. And then step 5 is really coming in and reacting responsibly. So we talk about in the training, a kid has disclosed to you. How do you react responsibly? What steps do you take to help that child get to safety, to ensure that the children's division, the right folks are coming in and helping and walking alongside that child, that victim, to get them into a safe healing place?
Okay.
Eileen, I do want to point out one thing really quickly. She said free. Everybody loves free. 2 hours. And she said, we will teach it to anybody. Don, there's no minimum number that we'll come and teach it to.
Yeah.
We've signed up a class where we showed that there was going to be 2 people there, and we'll show up and we'll be there to give the training, because 2 people can make a difference. Now, I was very fortunate because 13 people showed up to that training instead of just 2, but we were fully prepared. We want to teach this to baseball organizations, to soccer clubs. We want to teach this to anybody that will listen.
To churches.
Pardon me?
To churches.
To churches, absolutely. We know that every summer we have Vacation Bible School, right? And I don't know how many churches out there have enough people, volunteers for Vacation Bible School, but we know that I know a lot of churches that scramble at the last minute for Vacation Bible School teachers, right? But have they been through training? We would love nothing more than to come in at the start of the summer, middle of the summer, at the last minute if we need to teach people how to protect your children, how to protect your church, how to protect your organization. This is something we're passionate about because it can make a difference for our communities.
And Eileen, right here on the screen is my email address, my office line. Like, people can call me and we'd be more than happy to arrange these classes. We try to do it, when it's most convenient for your organization, whether that's in daytime, an evening time, a weekend, a Sunday afternoon, right after church, while we're all right there in captive together, we can, offer that training, and it's free and it's only 2 hours.
And it is such, personally, let me say, I went through the training and I shuddered at the things that I saw that we were doing that were really putting children in jeopardy. And it is unfortunate how we will excuse away what we're doing with the belief that it will never happen here.
Yep.
Said the NIA project wants the training.
Give me a call.
Yep.
Yes, because it is worth it. I mean, I had so many questions and so many issues coming out of this. I think churches, when they really understand the things that we do that could put children at risk, forget about the legal piece or the risk or the insurance. We are damaging children and not even knowing it because we think we're in the house of the Lord. And that's not true. We know that's not true. Terry's series, you can hear from her probably tonight after we finish.
That's awesome.
Eileen, the great part is we have trainers all over the state of Missouri. So what we want to do is if somebody knows somebody in St. Louis, if somebody knows somebody in Jefferson City, we have somebody that can get there. It may not be Dawn and I. Quite honestly, if we get full enough, it may not be Dawn and I here in this area, but we'll find somebody that can do it because we have trainers.
No. Terry wants you to.
That's all right. We're happy to do it for her.
She wants you to.
It's important to know this is something that Missouri Baptist Children's Home has invested in getting so many people trained, because we see it as a way to help prevent kids that are being abused.
Question: who is your typical audience? How long have you been doing this in Kansas City?
So I've been training in the Kansas City area, metro, out into the rural areas since 2018. And our typical audience, I've done everything from daycare settings to school settings. I've been in churches. I've been in other youth serving organizations who've done church camps. So, I mean, we really don't care what organization it is. I mean, it's all about protecting the kids. And if we can protect one child, it's worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we are going to move to our last slide and slow this down. We need moms at the table. We do.
Mm.
Moms and grandmas, anyone who is responsible, and grandfathers and dads, whoever is responsible for the safety of that child. Okay, the tip line, and we're going to leave this up as we say Naira for tonight. But I just wanted to let you know, too, before I go back to this slide for 1 second, I'm going to take it off, is next month, we have invited Don and Chuck back to talk about answering the call, which is the other side of what Missouri Baptist Children's Home does, talking about foster parenting. And I'm telling you, once you listen to the presentation, I know you're going to also answer the call. So put that on your calendar. October the 11th, 6:30 p.m. We will be inviting Don and Chuck to come back and be with us. Again, here are the tip hotlines. And we ran a little over today, but that's okay because we love all the questions that came in. We appreciate all of you who took the time to spend time with us. I'm going to say goodbye to Don. Goodbye, Don. I'm going to say goodbye to Chuck. Bye, Chuck.
Thank you, Eileen.
And just say for all of you tonight, please share with others tonight what you heard. Share this link. If they weren't able to attend, you can go out on YouTube and find it under the title of today's event, Stop the Cycle of Abuse, Ministering to the Next Generation. We thank you all for joining us today, and we look forward to being with you on next month on WordStream. Thank you. Bye-bye.